Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here to celebrate the life of an extraordinary man, Dr. Robert Bruce Meacham, one of my favorites. All right, but before we get started, we got a young lady that's gonna kick us off with a song. She was the encourager for Dr. Meacham. When he was in the hospital, she used to pick up that phone and call and sing to him over the airwaves and calm him down. She got some pipes on her. So I want you to show some love for Miss Lou Cautious Brown. See, I got it wrong. We had a CMOS the Cautious at UC, so it's the Cautious Brown. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. When we moved to Hatter Hills, the Meacham family was the first to greet us. That love and friendship has continued and will continue. One time, Bob and I was on the phone talking about the community, and I said, Bob, we have to continue this talking at a later date, because I have to go to the church for choir rehearsal, and I'm on schedule to sing a solo. He said, look, can you sing? And I said, well, so then he told me the story about him and his mother. They were at church, and they started to sing a song, which he didn't know was his mother's favorite song. So she grabbed his hand, because the Methodists don't do like that, because, we shout every time. But she grabbed his hand and squeezed it so tight that he thought the circulation had stopped. And at another occasion, Bob and I were talking. Sorry, what was it?
About pictures. You wouldn't have pictures.
Yes. Not too long ago, Bob and I were talking. I called and I said, I'm ready to sing your favorite song. He said, hold on a little minute. He left, he came back to the phone, he said, guess what I did? And I said, what? He said, I went and got my mama's picture. And I put it here on the tape before me, so you can sing to the best, both of us. And I said to me,
Well, I guess you can sing it then.
the song is, Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I'm tired, I am weak, and I am alone. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. That's enough.
After the end? Yes.
As you get older, you support. Okay, but for my readers on. When my light is all gone, no. When my way grows dim, precious Lord, linger near. When my light is almost gone, hear my cry, hear my call, hold my hand, lest I fall. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. the darkness appears and the night draws near and the day is past and gone. At the river I stand, guide my feet, hold my hand, take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me home. So,
All right.
on Sunday, March,
August 10th.
on Sunday, August the 10th, as Bob lay in his hospital bed, I would think he looked to the heavens and said, Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on that stand. I'm tired, I'm wicked, I'm worn. Through the storms, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me home. To the family, to the family, I have this message for you.
Oh, the other?
Yes.
Well, at least it's not a wardrobe malfunction. We're covered on that. Let's see, pardon me. One more page that we had. Be not dismayed.
Be not dismayed, whatever betide, God will take care of you. Beneath his wings of love abide, God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day, all the way. He will take care of you. God will, God will, God will. He'll take care of you.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. For some, today may feel a little heavy. We lost someone that meant so much to so many. But to others like myself, this is a joyful occasion because when a person sows goodness into the lives of others, they never truly die. Their lessons live on, more vivid, more powerful, more enduring. Dr. Bob was a quiet architect of belonging. He built bridges where there were gaps. He offered counsel where there was confusion. He stood firm in his belief that education empowers the soul. His life was a lesson in dignity, and his memory will be a guidepost for generations to come. If you ever sat in Dr. Meacham's office, the first thing that he would come out of his mouth was, "How you doing?" He wanted to connect with you. He never just threw a list of classes at you. He wanted to see what was going on. He wanted to know what your hopes were at the University of Cincinnati, what your plans were post-graduation. He never talked about if you graduated. He always talked about when you graduate, what you're going to do, how you're going to change your family's legacy. He listened, he connected, and then he helped you chart a path forward. See, to Dr. Meacham, advising wasn't about pushing students through the system. It was about tailoring a journey that matched your strengths. Many of us fell in love with criminal justice system, the classes, and not because it was accessible, and easy, it's because, especially myself, he knew it would engage us, but many of the black men that were coming through that university were products of the criminal justice system. We knew nothing about it. And he wanted to make sure that we were educated, not just for us, but we can take this back and train our generations after us. I learned the value of guidance back in high school. I had a counselor by the name of Miss Jean Landon, and going into my senior year, she got me in the summer, and she said, okay, you got a couple of electives left. We're gonna work on some of these electives. I'm gonna get you in a creative writing class. And I said, absolutely, because my handwriting is terrible. People were walking down the hallway looking in the classroom because we was laughing so loud. And you know, in Saturday Night Live, they had a little person, you seen a little head, you trying to pinch their head back in the day. I felt small. And I knew she wasn't talking about my creative style. She goes, well, that's one of the reasons why you need this class. It'll help you organize your thoughts in a manner that can help you be expressive and creative. And I learned that. I learned a lot. King Solomon said it best. He says, where there is no counsel, the people fall. But in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. Dr. Meacham, along with Bruce Ivory, put together plans for all of us, and they helped us grow. He sowed wisdom into lives of countless students. In 1995, I was hosting a show with Andy Furman called Sunday Morning Sports Talk, and the Harlem Globetrotters were in town. And Andy Furman was pushing me because they were looking for a new clown prince. That's the guy with the microphone that throws the confetti and he tells all the jokes. And this guy, Sweet Lou Dunbar, was about to retire. And so I ended up going out there and traveling with the Globetrotters for a month. And I said, man, I don't want to do this anymore. This is crazy. You're in a different city every day. You got to fly your people in and meet you at a city. And you got to leave at 5 in the morning on a bus to the next place. So I called Hugs. I said, Hugs, I want to come back and get my degree. And he said, that's a good idea, Terry. Why don't you go see Dr. Meacham in the morning and get your, get signed up for classes. And so I go see Dr. Meacham, and he goes, okay, since you're serious this time, he said, I'm gonna put you in evening classes. And evening classes were much better than when I was an athlete. You know, you had the email addresses of the professors. If you had a question, you can talk to them, you can meet with them. And it was much easier. My grade level actually went up. It was actually registered. It wasn't. I'll tell you what, King Solomon also says, for plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. You know, when I think of Alex Meacham, he's got a board for everything he does. He's got a board for basketball. He's got a board for leadership with his students. He runs a very engaging and very successful leadership program disguised as an AAU program, Shining Stars. He works with all of them. He's been awesome. When I think of Anthony, you know, they say imitation is the highest form of flattery. And Anthony has been working with athletes at the University of Florida for just going into his 29th year. And he is doing the exact same thing that his dad is doing. He's now associate AD in charge of doing the same thing that Doc was doing, helping athletes graduate, charting a course out for their path and doing all that. And he's starting to look like them. He's chewing gum the same way. And Miss Grace, your name says it all. Grace is not just God's unmerited favor, it's the power that nobody else can do what God chose you to do. It's grace. That's what grace is. It's just the power that God specifically gives to a person, and the name says it all. You can sit and ask people, 9 out of 10 people in today's generation don't know what their name means. It sounds good. It sounds cute, but name has power. And you raise 2 kings that are very successful. And I know they come around and they want a little guidance because you're very pushy. You want things done the way you want things done. There's no, and to see you and Alex go back and forth as we were preparing for this, I said, there's a dynamic there that makes you guys competitive. It's competitive in the household. So with that being said, I love the fact that when you look around, there's not just a lot of people here, but there's a lot of diverse souls here, a lot of people that he touched. Dr. Meacham was real. And sometimes the best things you can say when words don't even come out. He just showed up. Sometimes you didn't even know he was there. He just sat around, he just smiled. And that's a lesson for all of us. Sometimes, speak when spoken to. And he was great at that. So as we continue to move forward, I just want to say some nice things about my man because he helped me get to this point today. And his training and all the stuff that he did for me, allowing me to come back and finish my degree, have propelled me to where I am now in the sports world. And I can attribute it all back to him saying, you're going to change your family's legacy when you finish what you started. You promised your mom when you went to the University of Cincinnati that you'll get your degree. And so that weighed on me. And when I called him, he looked at me and said, now that you're serious, let's get to work. Thank you. There are some men that also had some tremendous influence in my life, and one of them I'll bring up right now, Dr. Eric Abercrombie. He's a man that has been tremendous resource on campus because they worked in unison when you had athletes come on campus, and the first thing they would do is they go see Dr. Abercrombie. Because Abercrombie, he would have his dashiki on, he'd keep it real with you, he's slapping you up, and he didn't give you the professor talk. He looked at you like, hey man, when are you gonna go to class? Don't be sitting in the back either, sit in the front. If you ain't gonna go to class, don't show up at all. Like he just kept it real with you. And when you grow up in the hood, you don't have a lot of father figures that are being real with you. And for him to come and be real with you and just talk to you and make sure that you were on the path and you stayed on the path. And when Dr. Meacham laid out the path, he was one of the first guys he hooked me up with, Dr. Eric Abercrombie.
Good morning. Good morning. I want to do this first. Two things. Grace gave me 5 minutes and said be funny. I'm going to take my 5 minutes. Terry's already been funny. And so I'll do, but I want all of the people first from the University of Cincinnati to stand up and be recognized. Bob would love this. And then second, I would like all the people who are former minority scholars to remain standing. All minority scholars. Bob would definitely be pleased. Thank you very much. I just like to say this, and Grace, my time hasn't started yet. Bob was my best friend. I don't know if I was his best friend, but he was mine. And I was thinking about this, other than your family, it is rough losing a best friend. Because that best friend knows everything about you that most people don't know. Even the people you're married to, even your children, even your other friends. And so to think that Bob was at the age where he represented the only person on planet Earth that really knew me. There's nobody really left that really knows me because you always have to have someone older. So I wanted to say that. You can't say Bob without saying Grace. I just wanted to say that. Grace, he loved everybody. He loved his children, he loved his relatives, but the way he loved you was not even a way that could be measured. So I just wanted to thank you for taking care of our brother all these years. because you really did. You really took care of him. I got 5 minutes. I'm going to start now. And what's good about it, I'm going to read it. So let me say this as I get into it. I wanted to capture what all Bob meant to not just me, but to the world. Is that all right? So I want you to know, as you listen to this, if you remember nothing, remember these 2 words. The best. Can everybody say, the best? The best. During these past 8 months, I tried to visit Bob at least once a week while he was in the hospital. When we were together, we would always talk about our families, how bad the food was where he was staying, UC basketball, how disappointed we were that all our work with DEI had been removed, especially at UC, and reminisce about our past separately and together. Bob had one of the best memories of anyone I have ever known. I will miss him saying, Eric, do you remember? And I would say, my old ass don't remember nothing. Robert Bruce Meacham was a great individual. Why I'm saying this, look in this room. I always say this, that if everybody, when you leave, if everybody in the room looks like you, you are not a great person. I don't care who you are. So looking out in this room and seeing everybody here, I know Bob would be pleased. This is what he worked for. He worked for the love of all humanity and doing for others. You know, I can remember a president died at the University of Cincinnati, and I knew this. I knew not one person of color was going to go to the service. So I went. Why did I go? I went to give him dignity. I went to give him dignity because if I had not gone, he would have looked like a hypocrite because he was one who said, I love everybody. I love DEI. So I just want to say this about you that are here today. Today validates that Robert Bruce Meacham was indeed a great individual. I met Bob in 1972 when I was 24 years of age, 12 inches afro, loud, didn't nobody want to be my friend. And Bob Meacham stepped forward and adopted me as a person for some reason that he liked. Bob was my best man in my wedding. Bob was my best friend. Bob was my best protector and provider when I was younger. If you remember anything I say during my tribute to Bob, remember these 2 words, the best. Speaking in my black culture context, he was my partner. He was my roadie. He was my cat. He was my road dog. He was my guy. He was my brother. Truly speaking, all I always wanted Bob to be was my father, not my brother. So all this time that I've been with Bob over this time, I always want to have this conversation about, man, you know, what are we to each other? And I would always crunch the numbers. Well, he would be 16. You can father somebody at that time. After all, I fathered somebody 5 years later than 16. So I was like, yeah. So I mean, I remember being with Bob, you know, and I'm like, man, we got to have this conversation. What am I to you? And then I remember being with Bob, and Bob says, Eric, I don't have any brothers. I looked at you as my little brother. I'm like, dang. I've been waiting all this time, but Bob, I will take that. To know that I'm going to be Tony and Alex's brother, yeah, I will take that. So he says to me at one of my last hospital visits, all my brothers are gone. I look at you as my little brother. I was ready to cry. That's how much he meant to me. Bob was an educator, professor, UC administrator, humanitarian, freedom fighter, civil rights activist. Bob loved the University of Cincinnati, and he loved being a Bearcat. He loved sports, and more sports. Bob had nerve. Some of y'all might remember you might be going down Reading Road, and you look up, and this guy would be running early in the morning, and he would have no shirt on, and he looked like he was wearing a pair of Speedos. That was Bob Meacham. That was Bob. One of Bob's mannerisms that I will miss the most is when Bob agreed with you, he would kind of give you that little wink, Terry. He would nod that head and slowly smile at you, and you knew it was all right. Alex, you have that trait. And when he didn't like something, he would do the same thing, but with a smirk. Grace, do you remember when Bob and I went to lunch and we got back and he couldn't get in? He couldn't get in the house. We could hear you talking. Bob tried to be so cool that day, but he was ticked. We could hear Grace. I walked around the house, and so finally he had me call the lady from across the street, and she came, and that's how we got in. But Grace, when he saw you, I could tell, just like what you saw today, I was like, oh, they getting ready to rumble. But Bob was so cool. So let's talk about that. Bob Meacham was one of the coolest guys you ever could meet. He was just absolutely, his walk, his talk, the way he ate, the way he dressed. The jazz man was a cool man. The jazz man was a cool man. That brother was so cool. He had style and grace. You would have him dress, as us old schoolers would say, to the T. Oh yeah, my brother was sharp. However, you Gen Zers would say he had drip. That's for y'all. That's for y'all. Bob loved all humanity, was diversity, equity, inclusion specialist. Bob was a fighter against all forms of systematic oppression. In the 80s and 90s, Bob and I owned a company. And we trained over 5,000 people at Kroger, Fifth Third, CIA, and other companies. We specialize in teaching people how to become more racially aware and sensitive. Bob was very proud of his blackness. Let's don't get it twisted. Bob was very proud of who he was. You had to understand his background and where he came from. Although many people in his lifetime thought he was white or Hispanic or Asian. A lot of times you know who Bob was. People come and say, is Mr. Meacham a brother? Yeah, daggone right he's a brother. But that's the issue about that brother. He could blend some of everywhere. He was a fighter of racial insensitivity and white supremacy. He was the exotic quintessence of blackness. He was very proud and loved being a black man. Let's don't get that twisted. Last but not least, he loved his nuclear and extended family. Loving wife Grace, amazing sons Alex and Tony, his precious, I say little sister Candy. He loved Amy. He loved Michael. He loved all his relatives. He loved his friends. He loved his cousins. And he especially loved you, Alan. Never spoke about anybody else outside the family, man, the way he spoke about you. We want to thank you for what you did for Bob. You was there all the time like the family. Let's clap for Alan. I'm going to end with this because I know Claudia is going to tell me I went over my time, Grace, but I hope this is okay. A few months ago, Bob said, Eric, I'm not afraid to die. You know, that was the courage that he had. Every time I would go see him, we would talk about death. And he would say, man, you know, I'm just trying to hang on for my family. I'm ready to take this journey, right? And so he, bottom line, said, but when I die, I want to know that Grace is taken care of. I'm not worried about Tony and Alex because they doing all right. But I want to know Grace is taken care of, that I have given my best, and that I've made a difference in the world. What better way to live and leave this earth and take your journey? To know that you've done those three things. Brother Bob, you've done that and more. After he told me this is what I like. He said, Eric, I may come back as a little bird. I mean, he set me up, man. I ain't going nowhere. You gonna be outside sitting under a tree, and you gonna hear something tweeting, and it's gonna be me. He said, I'm coming back. I'm coming back as a little bird, very harmless, but loving everything around me very quietly. This was two of the greatest qualities of Robert Bruce Meacham, his gentleness and his love for all humanity. Well, Brother Bob, we who love you will always be listening for your singing and watching for you flying high. You will always be one of the best and greatest individuals to ever have walked or run this earth. I will miss you. Never forget our conversations, our laughter, and times together. And Brother Bob, I will always love you. Thank you for all your kindness, generosity, and love, big brother. Your little brother, Eric. Can we say the best? Can we say without a doubt the best? Can we say absolutely the best? Absolutely. And can we say Robert Bruce Meacham? Love you, brother.
Kings always hang with kings. Great men always surround themselves with greatness. And the person he's talked about that he loved so much, Alan Costner, I met him over 30 years ago when I was on campus. He was an executive in charge of acquisitions and mergers at Fifth Third. And he's been my accountant, he's been my mentor, he's been my brother. He's been somebody that has encouraged me when things have been down, things have been low. He's not felt sorry for me. He just gave me direction, gave me wisdom, and gave me guidance. He's one of the most powerful forces that you'll ever meet, and he says very little. Alan Costner.
Afternoon, everybody. Dr. Abercrombie did well in talking about everybody else, because I'm not going to talk about everybody else. I'm going to talk about me today. I'm going to talk about relationships. And Dr. Bob and I had a relationship. See, I arrived on campus in 1977, was a little backwoods country boy that moved to the city and now came to UC. And my mom brought me down. And she told me, I introduced her to Mr. Meacham, and he later told me she told him, watch out for my son. Not knowing that watching out for her son meant 1 month short of 48 years that we spent together. 48 years of just having conversations and talking about life and understanding where we're going in life. And he inspired me because when I got there, I wanted to sow my oats because that was the first time being away from home. And I wind up having to take his college survival course. And in doing that course, we got a chance to talk, and I wanted to start complaining about things and start to ask him questions about this, and his answer was always, go study. And I said, well, no, go study. And I said, why do you keep telling me that? Because he said that you need to focus. You need to understand where you're going and why you're there for that particular time and reason. And if you do those things, everything else will take care of itself. And so we started that point. From that point, I became connected to him. And I began to understand, hey, that he was a resource that I needed to have in my life. He was a resource that, hey, I needed to understand and to spend time with. And so we spent time with. For over 35 years, once a month, we would always meet for lunch and just share where things are going and what things were happening. He was instrumental in helping me to get my first job. He was instrumental in helping me to move to Fifth Third, to where I eventually became an assistant vice president. He was instrumental in helping me become the young businessman for the for in the city. I can't remember. It was significant. He was there for all the major accomplishments and events that took place in my life. And so today I come to celebrate him because he wasn't just a friend. He wasn't just a mentor. I affectionately call him Dr. Bob because if I had to call him anything else, it would have been Dad. because it was just that tight, and it was just that kind of a relationship we had. And so what I wind up doing is that I integrated myself into his family. I said, I'm the son that he'd never owned up to. And I was always there. And so we would have conversations. And bad as it was, is that I was there the day right before he transitioned. And we had a chance for me to actually see him one last time. But before that, we had conversations. And one of the conversations, and see, Grace, y'all call her Grace, I call her Mama G. Because she's my mama of the child she never owned up to. But Dr. Bob told me, he said, Alan said, listen, I want you to make sure to take care of Grace. And that was my commitment, and that was my purpose, and I've always tried to stay there. I've always tried to be there. I always called it. And sometimes when he couldn't get to his doctor's appointments, I'd rearrange my schedule, tell people, you got to wait because I've got to go take him where he needs to go. Because it was a relationship, and a lot of you in here today have that same kind of relationship with him. You have that same kind of purpose with him, but I think mine was much more special. Because I got that chance to sit with him. I got a chance to hear the stories and understand the history. He was a walking encyclopedia of history. If you wanted to know something, sit down and have a conversation with him. And so over the time, he embedded those things into me. He taught me, you know, when I got my first job, he gave me one piece of advice that basically that as I even travel around the country and get a chance to speak, I always tell this one story. And the one story was that when I got my first job, he says, Alan, listen, he said, I don't care what you do. It says, it doesn't pay you to live your entire life and at the end have nothing to show for it. Save something. And I systematically put together that saving mechanism in my mind. And today I go around the country teaching people how to get out of debt and to begin to build wealth. Because of some of the same principles that he gave me the opportunity to understand and learn. Because he was doing it, I sat, and then in the end, it became a flip because I became his advisor. I got a chance to, as they say, to pay some of it back. Because, see, a lot of those lunches he wound up paying in the beginning because I didn't have no money. And after a while, when he realized that, hey, he got some money, he needs to start paying for lunches too. So we start rotating those lunches because he's you've been eating free for too long. But it was just that type of thing. And so today I celebrate him. I cherish him. You know, I got a chance to participate in an international leadership conference. And they said to talk about who was the person who had the most influence in your life. And it was him. And I wrote about it and I talked about how he did and the things that he did for me because he made me feel that good. He made me feel special. He made me feel that I had purpose. And he said, always make sure you give it back. So I've always purposed in my life to continue to give back and to help and to see who I could support. And today, please understand this. All of us has our relationships. But when you go home tonight, say, Alan, had it best. Because I got a chance every day that I could to sit front and center with him. God bless you all.
Can I put this back up now? As you can see, it's been amazing. This next young man, Alex, has the pleasure of serving on his board, has a great relationship. I met him. He's doing great things around the city with youth and with a lot of other avenues and pockets that are in this society. But I'm very passionate about youth. And when Alex linked up with him, it's just a perfect thing because Alex is very deep in our communities working with youth. And this young man runs Talbot House. And he has been responsible for putting in place systems and people that have brought them from one spot and elevated them to a point where they are self-sufficient and they know how to operate on their own and be productive members of society. I want to hear a story. Ladies and gentlemen, John Silverman.
Before the service started, Terry and I were standing over there talking about UC and Bob's influence on Terry through his college career and helping him graduate. As we were talking about Bob, all I could think about standing next to him was, I'm really short. Bob Meacham was a great man. How do you measure the success and significance of a man's life? Do you leave this world better than it was when he entered, as Eric said? Bob certainly did. Did his presence and his dedication, and in Bob's case his charm, benefit and improve his community? Bob's did. Was he a good husband, a good father and a grandfather? Bob was the best. And did he encourage others, motivate others, teach others, and mentor others toward that same success, that same significance? He did. And that's why I'm here today. I first met Bob when I joined the Talbot House Golf Committee almost 30 years ago. I then followed Bob onto the Talbot House board, and in his same footsteps became our board chair several years later. 18 years ago, when Talbot House took on a struggling community program called the Fatherhood Project, it was Neil Tillow who suggested that Bob and I should work together to grow the program, to make it our collective mission. And we did. The Fatherhood Project was designed to help men become better fathers. What I didn't initially realize was that Bob was doing that same exact thing for me. Giving me a much needed picture of what it meant, what it took to be a great father. Bob's impact on me and on the countless other people whose lives he touched at UC, at Kroger, at P&G, and at the Talbot House. Bob made us all better people. He improved the lives of us and our families. He taught us through grit, through support, compassion, and empathy. He taught us by his gentle laugh, his wry wit, and his incredible ability to understand us. How do you measure the success and significance of a man's life? Bob Meacham showed us how. Thank you.
All right, I'd like my teammates to come up here. They may have a thing or two to say. Bob really loved our group. Terrence Gibson was Bob Huggins' first recruit, and Corey and I needed a lot of work. Terrence Gibson, Corey Blunt.
Wow. Hello, everyone. I am going to try to get through this without crying. And I'm going to make it short. I remember in 1989, when I left to come to Cincinnati as a freshman, sitting on the side of the bed with my grandmother in Dothan, Alabama, crying like crazy. Didn't really want to leave and go to college because I didn't know what the hell it was. My grandmother told me, she said, "You're ready. And as soon as you land in Cincinnati, open your eyes, because there's going to be somebody that walk up to you Dr. Abercrombie, walk up to you, and you're gonna feel that love, that warmth, the same as you feel when you're sitting next to me. And when I got a chance to meet Dr. Abercrombie, right away he said, "You play basketball? Oh, you gotta meet Bob." I was like, "I don't know Bob," but I will sit here and tell you guys that was the greatest thing that happened to me. Dr. Meacham and Dr. Abercrombie, I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for those two guys. I'll leave you guys with that.
My name is A.D. Jackson. Terry forgot I was here, but we've had a couple people close to us on our team that's passed, and it's always hard for me to come up and say something. But I know I had to come up here and talk to Mr. Meacham because he meant so much to me. He was my academic advisor. But the truth about it, we already talked about school. We always talked about life. So he meant a lot to me that way. I just want to thank the Meacham family for letting him be a part of our lives. Thank you.
I need to move this up a little bit. You know, for me, the game of basketball has been a blessing. It's allowed me to travel all around the world and get introduced to a lot of special people. Dr. Meacham, for me, was one of those special individuals. When I signed my letter of intent to come to the University of Cincinnati, I met the coaching staff, and the next person in administration I met was Dr. Meacham. And I can still remember the time when I walked in his office and he had my transcripts in his hand. He looked at me and he looked at the folder. He looked at me and he looked at the folder. And he said, "Well, welcome, of course, but what do you want to do, Corey?" And I never forget my response. I was like, "I don't know." He said, "Well, do you think you want to be successful after college?" And I was like, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, let's figure this out." He said, "I think based on what I'm looking at, criminal justice might be a good, a good fit for you." So I looked at him and I said, "You know what, Doc, I think you're right." I said, "But what can I do in criminal justice?" And he said, "Oh, there's a number of things you can do. You know, you can be a judge, you can be an officer, you can be a probation officer. It just depends on what you're looking at." And I said, "You know what? I like probation." He was like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, because a lot of my friends are on probation, and I think I can help them. So sign me up for probation." He looked at me and gave me that smirk, and he never forgot that comment from me. Whenever we would see each other, he'd give me a smile and remind me of that first meeting we had. But he was just one of those men that I really respected. You know how you see somebody and every time you see them, you just automatically get a smile and a response of love, genuine respect. We both had that for each other. I always tried to communicate with him as much as possible. I couldn't help it every time I saw Alex. You know, Alex would tell you the next thing that would come out of my mouth is, "Tell your dad I said hi." Every time. And he would say, "Man, I told my dad," he said, told my dad what you told me. And I said, "Well, I'm gonna give him a call." And I would call him just to check in and talk. And we talked on the phone 30, 40 minutes. And it was always a positive, encouraging, motivational, everything that I needed. He was there for me verbally to give me that kind of conversation. And I've always respected him for that. So to his family, I can't even imagine the loss of someone that special, that's so influential in so many people's lives. And he was definitely someone who I respected, loved, and really cherished as a friend and as a mentor. So I want to thank you guys for allowing me to speak on behalf of Mr. Meacham. I love you, Mr. Meacham, and love his family. And whatever I can do to help, if I need to call the next person to step up, to take them calls for me, to remind us how we used to talk. Let me know, all right? Thank you.
My guys. All right, we want to hear some remarks from the two offspring here. You coming up first, Tony? Yes, sir. All right, Tony Meacham.
Well, it's tough to follow those great men who spoke in front of me. And my mom told me I have 30 seconds because Eric took 30 minutes, Alan took 20 minutes, so I will try to move as fast as I can. And there was no way I was going to just talk organically, so I really needed to write things down to get through this. So I apologize about that. But a lot of the things that were said in front of me, that the same thing I had put on paper when I wrote down. I think when I put the announcement out about my dad's death, I said the best, because he really was. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank my mother for what she's done over the years, especially during my dad's health battle, just being there all the time, every step of the way. And I'm in Florida, so it's hard to be there for her, but obviously I was only a phone call away. Alex, obviously, probably Alex would say that was his best friend when it was all said and done. They talked pretty much every day, and the relationship they had was very special. And I was kind of jealous of that because I wasn't there. I wasn't there to drive and see him or go by his hospital all the time. So that was, it was nice to see that relationship kind of blossom and move on. So thank you. One thing that I will say is that the reason I do what I do in my life is because of my dad. How he helped people, as we've heard, how he was able to do it in his own style and his own way, and probably people that did his job across the country didn't do it the same way, but he had the biggest impact of anybody I've ever known, and doing it his way was great. I just want to thank all of you out there that were there for him as far as phone calls, hospital visits. You guys were really everything. You kept him going. Every time I would come up and visit, I could tell the difference. When he got to talk to people, when he got in front of people, there was a big difference. He wanted to continue to fight. And, we wanted him to do that as long as he wanted to. We were there for him. But you guys truly were his driving force in terms of how the 92 years he was around with us. I just want to say that, my father was someone that, gave himself, obviously, to his family, to his friends, and obviously his community, as we've heard with the Talbert House and other organizations. He did it in his humble way. He did it sometimes unseen, but it was never unimportant. Everything he did, I think, was for a purpose. And I think you've heard today that from his friends. I think he's lived a life that touched everyone, not just with his words, but his actions, whether it was through his kindness, his quiet strength, his humor, and he was a funny guy. For those of you who have been around him, he didn't always, crack jokes, but he was a funny man, believe me. And his generosity. I think he was probably, again, one of the most generous persons you're going to be around. I think he's left fingerprints on all our lives, and I hope we can all carry that with us. And I believe he's taught us all life lessons, perhaps without even trying. Sometimes I think one thing he taught me was, to be patient, know my own strengths and weaknesses, always do things with integrity, and always have a strong work ethic. Those are things that are important. I hope, the kids out there understand those things and continue to do those things. One quick, thing I wanted to say is, I always think of my dad as someone that never met a stranger. He could talk to anybody, and he was just a rare breed that way. He could connect with people find a common ground based on really anything. Sometimes it could have been something he read in a book. You know, he read the newspaper every day. He was old school. So that's how he got a lot of information, a lot of his information, and he could connect that way. And I kind of witnessed it firsthand. You know, when I went to UC, one thing I pretty much did all the time was I went by the Minority Programs and Services office. So I saw my dad, I saw Eric, I saw how they did things, all the people that they influenced, all the people that continually came by. You know, I see people on campus. Oh, you're Bob Meacham's son. Yeah, he knew everybody. Well respected, and those connections are just things that you don't see, especially on a campus nowadays. I think a lot of people try to, do those things, but they really can't do it like Eric and my dad did it. I think when I was a young man, I really didn't know where I wanted to go when I was at UC, and so he also, Terry believes it or not, he helped me find a way to graduate. I wasn't the strongest student, but he found a way. I was kind of struggling, and he made my path for me, and then, influenced me to go to grad school. Ended up down at the University of Florida, and, just doing the same thing he does. So trying to influence people, trying to help people meet their goals and, do what they want to do in life. And I think the one thing, the best advice he probably, gave me is, somebody that was a counselor, was that, sometimes it's not that you have to give advice all the time. Sometimes it's important to be a listener. And I think that's what we've heard from other people today. If you listen, sometimes you help people just as much as if you tell them a piece of advice. So that was something I think he was very strong with. Just another quick story. Dad wasn't great with technology. I don't know that he knew how to send texts or emails. I don't know if he knew what his email address was. He didn't know how to use FaceTime. And, that's one thing I was surprised by the first time he FaceTimed me. He wanted to talk to the kids. Forget me, he wanted to talk to the kids and see how they were doing. And he continued to do that, as he could. He was just old school that way. I think one thing Alex and I saw is, he was a guy that wrote on legal pads all the time, every night. He'd be at the table writing notes to himself about, if it's work or if it's stuff he had to do around the house, whatever it was. He also, if you rummage through his desk today, you'd probably find an envelope, an open envelope, and on there is maybe the Bengals roster or some Reds statistics or a Reds batting order, who should bat first. He was really, locked into his Cincinnati sports, and, those are just little things that, made him a funny guy. He also had a gift of telling a story. Sometimes it was verbally. With my kids, he liked to tell them stories, and I think a couple years ago, we brought a book up for him to kind of tell stories to them, and that was just great to see. Like it could be from when he was a kid or his best memory of this or that, and so he was a great storyteller. And in that way, he actually used to write stories to our kids. I think he was probably in his 70s when he was doing this, but he would write on his legal pad. Sometimes they'd be 5-page stories, something like Batman. He'd just create things to talk, to try to connect with them, send those in the mail. And so those are just great. I think I found one, recently, and it was just really impactful. So I hope that's something, kids out there, write adults letters. Don't email, don't call, write them letters. All right, they love those things. In closing, I just want to say, as we say goodbye to my father today, I think we also say thanks to him. Okay, thanks for everything he meant to all of us. Thanks for everything he did, for his love to our family, for the ways he helped make people's lives better, and just being in it, really. Let us carry forward his example, quiet strength, his deep care for people, his honest way of moving through the world. Let's be a little bit more like him every day. And I wanted to kind of end things with, something that he just, every time I talk to him, I think he probably said this. His favorite phrase was, "Who day?" Every phone, "Who day? Who day? Who day think gonna beat them Bengals?" All right, thank you. Appreciate that.
A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, and you can see that being passed down to the grandchildren with the storytelling. One of my mentors also told me, he said, a picture is worth 1,000 words, but a story is worth 1,000 pictures. And if you think about that, the best orators you've ever heard were storytellers, because you remember the story. You never said, that was the great bullet point. Nobody like bullet points. It's the stories that enrich you. And this young man I'm about to bring up here is one of my road dogs, man. I love this man. I love what he stands for. I love what he does with our youth. I love how he puts boards together. I love how he puts people together. He's a collector of people, collector of knowledge. And other than somebody who works at Foot Locker, nobody has a bigger Jordan collection than this man. Literally, he has furniture that looks like boxes. I mean, it's just to the sky. How many you got? How many pairs you got?
A lot.
Yeah. Over 200 pairs of Jordans, ladies and gentlemen. Alex Meacham.
$576 pair of Jordans. Make sure we get that
He
right.
gave some away.
And I did. I gave some away. My old neighbor, Betty Hull, told me, take a deep breath. Thank you. You know, after my father passed away, the week was really tough. I went to a high school football game on a Friday night. I just needed to see people. And I was standing on the sideline. I'm watching Indian Hill versus Roger Bacon. I graduated from Roger Bacon, so saw a lot of people I know. Guy ran up to me, and he said, "Hey, I'm so sorry to hear about your father." And I said, "Thank you." And he said, "You know, I followed everything on social media you posted. I know he battled, health issues for many years." And I said, "Yeah?" And he says, "Well, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry to hear that, and I felt like I knew your father, but I never met him, but I felt like I knew your father." So I looked at him, I said, "Thank you." Then he looked back at me and said, "I thought he was going to live forever." And I looked at him and I said, "I think we all did. I think we all did." Terry Nelson, I want to thank you. I called you and asked you to do this, and I think I was a minute 30 into what we were doing, and he said, "I'm there, what do you need me to do?" He's been that for me for a long time. He's my Bearcat brother, doing a fantastic job here. And my father, if you were to ask my father, who would MC this, it would be Terry Nelson. Do have a round of applause for Terry, please. My father, he got me into basketball. He made me fall in love with the Cincinnati Bearcats, football and basketball. His favorite team of all time, though, was the UC Bearcat Final Four team. Corey Blunt, Terrace Gibson, A.D. Jackson, thank you for being here. You all meant the world to him. You all were big brothers to me. Corey, I know you stopped by to see him in the hospital at one point at UC Westchester. He talked about that for a long time. You all are very, very special to my father. Thank you. My father and I developed this bond with basketball, and my basketball idol is here. Growing up, and it's not Michael Jordan, it's Roger McClendon. Roger McClendon, one of the greatest to ever wear the red and black. And I remember my dad took me to the Cincinnati Gardens, watching the Bearcats play. And I watched a guy jump up, kick his feet to his butt, and shoot this smooth jump shot. I wanted to be like that guy. So Mom and Dad built this court in the backyard, a small court. And I'd go in the backyard and I would shoot. Remember that basket, Mom? And I'd go back there and she got sick of me bouncing the ball. And I would sit there and visualize being Roger McClendon, playing for UC. And I used to do this thing where I would sit on a bench and I would go, "And now," starting for the Bearcats. I think I was playing for the Bearcats. And that's what started it all.
And my dad and I kept attending UC Bearcat basketball games. And we had these seats. And our seats we call it the Shoe. It's now Fifth Third Arena, but at the Shoe, we had these seats in an overhang. And we'd watch every single game together. And one day, I changed seats. Meaning I was on the bench and I was on the team. I mean, I literally was on the bench. I didn't play a lot. Yep. Seriously. So it was one of those things where my father was so proud of me because I made the UC basketball team, kind of without his help, but yet with his help. He inspired me, but I didn't talk to him about it. I didn't talk to my mother about it. I did it on my own. And I know my dad was proud, but it was really odd sitting in a seat watching a UC Bearcat game without him. And I'll never forget this. I got a picture in the mail, and there was a photographer that worked at UC, and he mailed a picture, and we won the Conference USA Championship. And it was at the University of Cincinnati. It's when the conference championship was hosted at Cincinnati. And here I am, front and center, got my teammates, Ruben Patterson, Kenyon, Bobby Brandon, all these different teammates are kind of standing behind me, and I'm going like this, and I'm pointing up at Dad in the seats. My favorite picture of all time. He loved UC sports. Mr. and Mrs. Brown, thank you for being wonderful neighbors, and thank you for the lovely hymn you did at the beginning. You know how it is nowadays, like everyone's moving so fast nowadays, it's hard to build community within your neighborhood because everyone's kind of doing their own thing, but our neighborhood really was, my brother and I talk about this, our neighborhood could have been a sitcom, just with just all the different characters, am I right? Yeah, it was a lot of stuff going on, so that's another. But I'm going to tell you, and Tony and Mom, you all can attest to this, the one person that kept the neighborhood together, Mrs. Brown. Detective Brown, she was on it. If there was anything going on in the neighborhood, anything need to be figured out, you called Mrs. Brown. I mean, she was, I don't know if you watch a lot of Columbo, Law and Order, or what, but you had it. Eric, it was funny that you came up here and said, you were my father's best friend. I don't know if, he was your best friend, and I have that in my notes. You were my dad's best friend, and he told me that. Eric always called and checked up on Dad. He would text me so much, and I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you for being a great friend. I think it's made me a better friend to other people. Thank you, Eric. Oh, remember when you picked my dad up when he was sick and you took him to where you're from, which is originally Falmouth, Kentucky. He talked about that forever, and I really appreciate you when he was sick, getting him out. And Eric did something, I totally forgot about that, just remember this. You told me to do something, and I owe you so much for this. I have a podcast and do a lot of podcasting, and one day Eric said to me, you need to interview your father. And I said, that's a great idea. And I sat down with Dad, it's when he was sick, and we did a 2-hour podcast. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I interviewed Terry, interviewed Corey Blunt, interviewed Roger McClendon, I interviewed a lot of big-time Bearcat players. My dad got the most listens of everybody. Facts, you can go back, you can go and look at it. And I think Stu Holtz here, who produced my podcast, and he was there as well. It was very powerful, so thank you for that. So Mom, you're next, I gotta do a podcast with you. She said, no, don't do that. Alan, years ago, in 2000, I go to Fifth Third, and I meet with Alan Costner. And I said, Alan, I have this business idea. I need your help. And I laid it out for him. He said, here's what you do. Here's what we're going to do. And I said, thank you so much for helping me. And he goes, I'm always going to help you because your father helped me. And your father meant so much to me, I'm always going to help you. 25 years later, I call this man just about every single day. And he's helped me every step of the way in business and life. I call him and ask him for advice. And he's doing that because of what my father did for him. And I appreciate that, Alan. John Silverman. John, thank you so much. You have found a way to consistently honor my father, and I appreciate that. You know, a lot of us, we go along life, and we just have our head down and we're working, we're grinding. And you don't always get the flowers. Not that you're looking for the flowers. My dad lived 92 years, and I truly believe towards the end of his life, he got his flowers while he was alive and felt it. And John, you're a big part of that because the Meacham Athletes for Fatherhood that was put together with Talbert House, you all came to our house. Josh, you were there, and showed him, hey, this is what we're going to do, Bob. It's going to be the Meacham Athletes for Fatherhood. And that was right before he started to get really, really sick and he went to the hospital. That was one of his last days at home, John. And then the Talbert House had the fatherhood event, which is a wonderful deal. And Meacham Fatherhoods for Athlete was on this giant screen at Music Hall. And I'm over in the corner crying. My dad really, really received his flowers. John, you're a big part of that. My father loved the University of Cincinnati. The University of Cincinnati had a lot of people kind of come and go because, just changing jobs. Man, Talbert House has always been a consistent in my father's life. Terry now, who's here. Terry, thank you so much for everything you do. You always were checking in on Dad, and I have to say thank you for that. And also Neil Tillo, who's also done a tremendous job of thanking my father and honoring him. So a round of applause for everybody at Talbot House. My brother Tony, my big brother, 7 years older than me. When we used to play on that backyard hoop, he would always beat me one-on-one. First time we played, I think it was 10-0. Seriously. Second time was 10-2. Next time was 10-3. But I knew he wasn't giving me anything easy. I had to work for it. And a lot of reasons that I made it to the University of Cincinnati was because of those one-on-one games with my brother in the backyard. And we used to have this rose bush right next to the court. Sometimes he would push me into that rose bush. It made me tougher. Helped me prepare for Bob Huggins. What my brother has also done is he's created a wonderful, wonderful family. Amy, his wife, my sister-in-law, thank you so much for all you do. Sometimes a lot of times my mother doesn't listen to anything I say. And I can call Amy and say, hey, tell Mom this. And then she'll tell my mom, that's a great idea. How did you think of that? I told her, no. Isaac, Cy, Jude, Mariah, my nephews, nieces, they look wonderful. Could y'all stand up real quick and just turn around so everybody can see them? Don't they look great? I tell you, as my dad's health declined, and he had some really rough days, Eric. You remember those, really rough days. If he would get a call from them, man, it was a good day. He would change his whole mentality. I will never forget when my nephew Cy got admitted to go to the University of Cincinnati or University of Florida. Oh my God, my dad was so proud, and he was really sick that day. Never seen him smile that much. So thank you all for making Dad smile, and I believe that my dad wanted to continue to live as long as he could so he could see you all's success. So give them a round of applause. Last but not least is my buddy, Grace Meacham, my mother. Mom has showed me strength. When my father got sick and he continued to go downhill to the point that he was in a nursing facility, we were told pretty much the rest of his life, my mom went over there every single day for at least 4 hours. Sometimes he would sleep the whole time, but she was there. And he knew she was there. He felt that. September 12th, 2025 will be their 60th anniversary. You know, I spent a lot of time with my dad, and our connection was through sports. Watched Bengals games, Reds games, Bearcat games. And with my father not here, I truly believe I need to spend more time with my mother. I need to do more things with her that I haven't done, I think, in the past. Somewhat because my dad and I had a connection through sports. And then when his health declined, I wanted to spend a lot of time. So, Mom, we're going to be watching the Bengals games a lot. Who they? Who's Joe Burrow? I don't know who that is. I'm going to leave on this. I'm looking around. There's so many, people in here I'd love to talk about and thank. When my father, I was the last person to see Dad before he passed away. I got to tell the story real quick. So I was at one of our Shining Star alumni games, and my mother called me. They had rushed my dad to the hospital, and she said, he's not doing good. He's not doing good. I've got to go home. I can't sit here. I've got to go home. She went home, and I'm in this game, and I said, Mom, should I go to the hospital right away? What should I do? Because I didn't know if we had seen him sick so many times, but he bounced back. Like I said, a lot of people thought he was going to live forever. So I got a little numb to it, and I had tickets to the Cincy Open. Ben Shelton was playing later, and I said, Mom, should I go to the tennis and then go see Dad? Or she goes, no, you need to go right away. Finish up the game, get my stuff together. I go see Dad. He was in bad shape. But I thought he was going to bounce back. Thought he was going to live forever. So I was talking to the doctor, and I said, what do you think? Should I go? She goes, yeah, you can go home. Come back in the morning, and we'll kind of see where he's going from there, and we'll look at the next steps. That was about 10:39. So I go home. I eat a little bit, watching TV. I'm thinking, probably going to go to sleep. And my phone rings, and I see UC Hospital. I said, oh, I just knew. I answered, the doctor said, I am so sorry. Your father passed away. And I said, well, can you tell me what happened? She says, well, he passed peacefully. His heart stopped. And I said, what time did he pass away? She said, 11:41. I said, Dad. And the reason I say that, when I played basketball at UC, I wore number 41. And that was our thing, number 41. And when I was in his room cleaning some stuff up, I found a picture of Dad. And I don't see there's not a lot of pictures of my dad when he played basketball back in 40, whatever it was. Just not a lot of pictures, but there's one picture in his room. And he's on a team. And he's kneeling down. And I grabbed it, and I was like, I look at it. I look on his sleeve. And back then they put, numbers on the sleeves of the warm-up jackets. And it said number 11. And I went, 11:41. It was a message to me. As I look around the room and see all these people that impacted my father and my father impacted, I want to say thank you for being here. It's very evident of all the people in this room that my father will live forever. We're going to continue his legacy. I appreciate everybody for being here today. Thank you very much.
Candy is going to come up and say a few words.
Good afternoon. Actually, I am Bob's baby sister, and it's an emotional time for everyone. I have put together some words about his early life, and what I'm going to do is ask my family to come and read it for me, because we want to be able to get through this right. So, if my husband, my granddaughter Lexi, my grandson Bryce, if they would come up, they have their parts right here.
Good afternoon. This might sound a little strange, but Candy, my wife, felt that she might not be able to say these words. These are her words. We've all heard the phrase, a gift that keeps on giving. That phrase represents the life of my brother, Bob Meacham. But before I talk more about Bob, I have to first, however, take you back to meet our mother. Mom was born in the Deep South and at an early age herself raised 3 wonderful boys. During that time, Bob saw and learned firsthand what a sharing and loving home looked and felt like. At the same time, during those early years, experiencing and having been witness to life there, he also began forming his values, even as a young boy. Values that were the skeleton and bones of who he was to become. A man with a steely spine, a gentle manner, a kind smile, a giving heart, and a true North Star shining brightly on what is right and wrong.
How y'all doing, everybody? Once again, these are my grandmother's words. After leaving the South, the family moved to Dayton, Ohio, where our older brothers, Armin Jr., more known as Uncle Sonny, and my Uncle Frederick, who is known as Uncle Brother, both went to the service. Sonny's tour was in Korea, and Uncle Brother's was in Germany. Meanwhile, Uncle Bob attended Central Elementary School downtown and then went on to attend Chaminade Catholic High School, where he excelled academically and was a member of the basketball team.
While in high school, along came me. I'm sure Bob thought, oh boy, great. And then, oh no, a girl. He was my first babysitter. I think I grew on him in record time. When I was 5 or 6, after Bob graduated from high school, he went to the Air Force and was stationed in Scotland. It was kind of a revolving door with my older brothers coming home a year or 2 later, each bringing with them a buddy who needed a home to go to. Our mother opened the door to them and they became family too. In 1956, when I was 10, Bob returned home. At last, we were all together. It was a beautiful time. Our street was like a village, everyone contributing to each other's lives. Our home was filled with joy and love for all that entered.
On Saturday mornings, Bob and I would hear voices of several ladies from the church who came as members of the Mary Rose Missionary Circle. In short, this group of ladies, led by our mother, provided assistance via the church to members of the community. Their motto, recited at the end of every meeting, was identify a need and find a way to help. Those 9 words were our family's guide to life. So as you look over Bob's accomplishments, various posts and stations to life, all allowed him to identify a need and find a way to help.
In July of last year, Bob came to visit me twice that month. The first visit was spent at our home, having a big lunch, looking at pictures and talking about old times. The second visit, he wanted to ride past the homes we'd lived in and then go out to the cemetery where our mother, one of our brothers, and his father are buried. His close friend Eric, who brought him, kind of wondered why we were taking folding chairs and a few snacks with us. Well, once we arrived, we made our way to Mom's grave, where we placed some flowers, set up our chairs around her bench headstone, and spent nearly 3 hours under the sun and blue sky, telling stories and laying out the history of his and our family's life journey. There was so much laughter, so many memories, and he had such a detail of things from 6 to 7 decades ago. He rattled off his Air Force serial number like he was first enlisted. He remembered the names of neighbors and how we all contributed to daily life. The fisherman who shared his weekly catch, the baker on the block who prepared rolls, cakes, and pies for all, and the neighbor's home with the big garden across the street when we lived on Gold Street, filled with fruit trees and all sorts of vegetables that you were welcome to come and pick, and more.
We talked about how we would go to every local football game at the stadium close to our house, no matter how cold it might have been outside. But not just football. When spring hit long before March Madness, it was Bob's Madness. I think we went to every basketball game played in the entire city. I wish I'd seen him play at Chaminade.
I did watch him play tennis, another game he loved. I'd be at the park practicing with my high school cheerleading squad, and he'd be on the court playing tennis with his friend Richard. As his baby sister, 13 years apart, he taught me how to ride a bike and I would fall and he would use his medic skills to patch me up. He introduced me to jazz, which is an integral part of my personal and professional life today. And all that sports interest was just the beginning, and ultimately carried over for his support of the Cincinnati Bearcats, the Reds, and the Bengals that he loves so much.
I can give you story after story of Bob's early life, but believe me, the through line is the thing each of you already know, based upon your encounters and relationships with him. As I said in the beginning, he was a gift that keeps on giving. For some, it will be a talk or discussion you had together you never forgot. Perhaps it was support he provided to an idea or project you wanted to see through. Maybe it was a listening ear and his responding with words of wisdom, helping to untangle a complex thought that resulted in the development of a long-lasting academic program, or the collaboration and financial support of a project to help people turn their lives around. Now that he's left this earth, I pray, as he is met by family and friends in heaven, that his life continues to be a blessing and an example through generations to come. I'm sure he's serving the Lord, guided by those same 9 words he internalized as a young man: identify a need and find a way to help. Now, please join us in remembering and saying his name, Bob Meacham. Thank you.
Okay, for the sake of time, those that have responses that they want to talk about Dr. Meacham, there's going to be a camera set up in the hallway, and you guys can go out there and say your part. And we will make this is going to be on video and put on YouTube for all to view. So if you have something you want to say, we're going to move it out to the side. And right now, we're going to finish with our closing prayer from Miss Amy Meacham.
Hello, beautiful family. Bob sure was a boy dad, right? We heard everybody wanted to be his son, and he had amazing sons. And I get to be married to his number one and his mini-me, Tony Meacham, and give him 3 beautiful grandsons and a granddaughter. But I was also his only daughter, someone who loved to bring sugar into his diabetic life. I would love to make his mother's recipe for pound cake or some special butterscotch pie that I picked out just for Bob, and he loved to tell me, he just loved to dote on me for those things, and I'll always have the best memories and share those with our kids. In the last few years, I've come to just wonder why Bob just wanted to keep on going, right? Like you said, you didn't know. He'd go to the hospital and he'd fight through it, and you got to expect that he was gonna live forever. And he would defy all the odds and just keep fighting. And I realized today, seeing and hearing so many people, why he wanted to keep on going. He loved you all, and he had so much love to keep sharing. It's so amazing, the kind of love he showed everybody, and because he was getting it from you all too. Thank you for loving our Bob. Real quick, I know Grace has picked out a really sweet dessert for you today because it was Bob's favorite, and I wanted to just talk about that just because she's gone through such an effort to make today so special. She loves him so much and modeled a really positive marriage for us. But my part is to close us out in prayer. Jesus said, "I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, yet shall they live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. I am the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. I died, and behold, I am alive forevermore, and I hold the keys to hell and death. Because I live, you shall also live." Pray with me. Heavenly Father, you love us with an everlasting love, and you alone can turn the darkness of sorrow into the light. Today we've gathered in your presence, not just to grieve Bob's death, but to celebrate and remember his life, his wonderful, impactful, purposeful, joyful life. Lord, we give you the thanks for the time Bob lived. We remember the kindness and love he shared with us, and we ask that your Holy Spirit would comfort us and grant us strength and hope to continue our journeys until we meet again. May you receive all the glory, and may our lives be marked by your goodness and your mercies as we each learn what it means to walk with you every step of our lives, even into eternity. Give us hope and give us peace, a peace that passes understanding. We pray this in Jesus' name, amen.
That was beautiful. And now it's for the veteran flag folding. Wow. Mm. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes this portion of the memorial for Dr. Robert Bruce Meacham. Some of you guys may have to go, but we also have a reception just on the other side if you want some food and continue the fellowship. We'll be on the other side. Also, in the hallway, we have those that want to shoot a video and leave your comments for Dr. Meacham. This will be aired on YouTube for those that couldn't make it. Thank you so much.